Microphone here. Okay. Hi, everybody. Hi. Let's start with a small introduction. Although Dima is doing the heavy lifting here, it's his talk, but a small advertisement. I will also be giving a talk about DDoS attacks on Sunday, so you're all invited, and even if you have other people not in the room, you can invite them as well. We'll be demonstrating DDoS attacks and such. Let's just a small introduction about us. My name is Ben. My career, or what I did over the years, was mainly two things. Penetration testing, offensive security, up to head of offensive security for one of the big companies in Israel doing penetration testing, and development from writing code up to CTO and VP R&D of a cybersecurity startup. So that's what I like to do and what I do. And currently I work for Imperva in Capsula. We deal with DDoS attacks, and we deal with web attacks, the traditional ones like SQL injection, cross-site scripting, etc., and the more sophisticated automated attacks. And I manage the security research in Capsula, which is tons of fun because it's tons of fun. And there's also my social, my contact information. I always answer, so that's about me. And this is Dima, one of our brilliant researchers, and he's into machine learning, he's into any combination between computer sciences and the actual world, and is a security researcher in our team. And before he starts, I would just like to mention that Dima was quite sick. He's still quite sick. He had the fever on 39 degrees. I had to virtually carry him to the airplane. He's on tons of drugs. So he's on tons of drugs, yeah. So if he's talking about pink elephant or something, just play with it and imagine that he's talking about headless browsers. So Dima, please. Okay, sorry. I forgot I have another slide. And remember that about the demonstrations and about anything Dima or I might say, what happens here stays here. It's like a disclaimer. What we say is what we say, not what Imperva is saying. Okay, so now you can start.
Hello, everybody. So Google's most famous web page in the world, and let's start and leave the presentation, go to real web browser and understand how does it works. So if we have this very minimalistic web page, so if we open the source, we'll find a lot of code, completely ununderstandable. Even web developers, they need time to understand what's going on inside this code. But some way, browser take this code and convert it to very simple, minimalistic, and nice to our eyes web page. So let's understand how it happens, what happened behind it, and how it connected to headless browsers. So first of all, how browser can be headless. In one hand, we have code that we need to represent to humans. In other hand, it's headless. It can't present nothing to human. So according to Wikipedia, headless browser is browser without graphic user interface because it's headless. And it accesses web pages but doesn't present them to human, and it passes the result to the other programs. So let's start to understand how does it work. If we take this line and place on the left side command line tools like curl or wget, actually you can type any URL and grab the content of the URL, but the content is just a string. Okay, as one we saw before in the view source. You can nothing to do with it. It's a string. You need somehow to produce it. On the other side, we have browsers. They can take this piece of string in HTML or JavaScript and convert it to something visual, something that we as human, we can understand it. So very, very close to command line tools, we have different HTTP libraries like Python, urlib, or Go, or Java, whatever. So actually, they can manipulate with this string. You can grab it from the web and find some content inside. But also, it's very, very far from a web browser. So what we have in this gap is headless browsers. They're exactly as normal browsers, except one thing, they don't present the result to the human. So if we cross between them, let's understand what is the difference. The difference is, sorry, supporting for standards like CSS or JavaScript or HTML5 that the other tools, they don't have. There is no JavaScript, no DOM, no styling, no layouts. So if you grab and you know there is some image, you don't know if it's in the left corner of the screen or right corner of the screen. You just know there is some image. But in browser, you know where it's placed on your screen. So what makes this difference? The difference exactly comes from web browser engine. Each of one of popular browsers, they have the engine like Opera based on Presto, the old versions of Opera. Internet Explorer and Edge based on Trident, Firefox on Gecko, Safari based on WebKit, and Blink is fork of WebKit that Chrome new versions of Opera based on. Also Android, it's integrated inside new versions of Android. So this makes the difference between command line tools, HTTP libraries, and real browsers. Who know what is DOM, Document Object Model? Nice, so you will help. Is HTML you write is DOM? No, it's not a DOM, it's just HTML you write. It's used by browser to convert to DOM. Is view source we have seen before is DOM? No, also it's exactly as HTML you write before, just before browser produce it. Is code in DevTool is DOM? Exactly. It's a DOM. It's a human representation of DOM objects. It's similar to HTML tags. So if we open DevTool in Chrome or Firefox or whatever browser you like, you see that you can see the objects exactly like in HTML. And if you change something in the page, you see how the DOM changed as well. So let's see some example what is DOM and how different from HTML. So if we have some div object container and there is nothing inside, but we have a JavaScript that places content inside this container. So if we grab the source code, we get this one, and actually we need to produce and interpret this script to understand that hello world should be placed inside container. But if we take a look in DOM representation inside Chrome DevTool, we'll see this line. Actually, Chrome execute this code inside the web engine and represent the DOM after the execution, so hello world contains inside the container object. So except DOMs, there is also other things that web engine supports. It's JavaScript, as we have seen before, Cascade Style Sheet, SVG, vector images, MathML, languages to present mathematical functions and operators, WebGL, graphic engine, and many, many more. So all these under standards in W3C. So if you want to check what our browser support, we can use a test like Modernizer. It's a very famous test for checking what our browser support. You can see there is green and red lines, for green for support and red for unsupported. Let's zoom in. For example, this is a real example from Chrome. Support SVG, as I said before, but it does not support datetime function in JavaScript. Actually, this function implemented also in Firefox, but not supported in Chrome. So we can test what engine support and what our engine does not support. And if we take any HTTP library or CRL, it supports nothing because it can generate and understand what is SVG, for example, or JavaScript. Another test is ECMAScript test 262. Actually, this test check JavaScript engine. And as you can see, not all browsers can pass all the tests. There is some differences between JavaScript engines. And for example, PhantomJS is one of the headless browsers we are going to talk about. So it has less failed tests than Firefox version 31. Again, command line tools, they can't execute JavaScript. So let's see some examples of headless browsers in the wild. The most popular is PhantomJS. Some of you used PhantomJS or heard about it? Only 2-3 people. Okay, it's based on WebKit. It's cross-platform. That's very nice. It's portable. Scripted with JavaScript. So if you know JavaScript, it's very easy to write a script for Phantom. And it's very useful for UI automation, simulating user experience. Some forks of PhantomJS is Slimmer, based on Gecko, the engine, Firefox engine, and Trifle.js, based on Trident engine, used in Internet Explorer. Other type of headless browsers is headless browsers that we can compile inside our application or use as a module in our application. One of the biggest examples is Osomium. It's based on Chromium engine, and it has inside V8 JavaScript engine developed by Google. It's programmable with .NET and C++, as also VB if you like, Visual Basic. It compiled to cross-platform application, or can be used as a module inside your application. You can dynamically load it. Different examples of headless browsers as Osomi is Chromium Embedded Framework or WebKit.NET. What is not headless browser? So Selenium is not headless browser. Actually, Selenium is manipulation tool, okay? It use WebDriver, and you need to have real browser installed in your system prior you start to use Selenium. Because Selenium need to communicate with real browser and send it commands to execute and run and go to the page or press the button. So Selenium, it is not headless browser, it's also manipulation tool. There is also different examples of manipulation tools like Casper.js or Appium used to mobile WebDriver or Capybara, and more examples. Prior you dive in headless browser, you need to understand very, very important thing. I call it the world of two contexts. Actually, when you work with headless browser, there is two contexts that you need to understand and separate between them. One context is browser context. It means that when you have access to OS, you have access to file system, and if you want to read a file, you are in browser context. But if you go to the web page, you move to another context, and in this context you have access to DOM. The only language you can use is JavaScript, and this context evaluated not inside the browser, but inside the web engine. So all the time there is ping pong between two contexts, and let's see some simple example. The syntax is here for PhantomJS. So if you want to open page example.com, you write a command, and browser context send command to WebKit engine, control command to open this page. So now when this command is executed, we have reference to the page. Later we want to grab a title of this page. So the title exists only in page content. There is no idea in browser what is title. It exists in page content inside WebKit engine. So what we need to do, we need to type page evaluate because we want to evaluate some code inside WebKit, and pass this code, inject it inside WebKit engine. So WebKit will execute this code and return with callback the result to our browser context. So all the time there is a ping pong between two contexts. Okay. So.
Okay.
So can you continue?
Yeah, sure. So until now we talked about the theoretical part behind the headless browsers. So it sounds like a useful thing, right? And only 2 or 3 people said they're using Phantom.js, for example. What do you think are use cases for headless browsers? For headless browsers. Did you hear the rest of it? Yes.
For instances where you have to have some JavaScript which renders on the page,
Okay.
and which is called from the browser itself. You can't get some data back unless the JavaScript evaluates. You just get the normal HTML and CSS.
Okay, right. More use cases? Unit testing. Okay, good. More? I need at least 15, okay? Scrapers. Scrapers, okay, great. Yes? Taking screenshots, that's great. Okay, so we're down to the last 11, come on. Authentication? With proxies. Okay, okay. Yeah? Yes? Yes? I couldn't hear, but
End-to-end testing.
end-to-end testing. Okay, right. So, well, I kind of combined the unit testing and the end-to-end in one bullet point. Yes?
You can go to a website with lots of ads and click on them randomly to confuse the ad.
The ad algorithm.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, or you can use it to click on ads in order to get money, which is, yes. But who needs money, right? I mean, money is overvalued. Okay, so right. So let's start with some of the use cases we talked about, and I conveniently wrote them down in the next slide. But let's talk about some of them. So first of all, we mentioned unit testing and/or end-to-end testing. So if we have a sophisticated web application that we want to test, we want to make sure that when we introduce new features, we don't break everything else or anything else. And we want to check that the so-called internet weather is not ruining anything. If we have a web application that does things from different locations, for example. So QA would be a good place because we can actually do dynamic things on our web application. Other use cases can be taking screenshots. For example, search engines, they can show a screenshot of the homepage of the page that you're about to visit, so you know where you're going. Other things like crawling. Currently, the modern search engines are doing that. They're using part of their crawlers are using headless browsers in order to get to dynamic content, so they can also index the dynamic content, which is cool. And then again, we have some more use cases like performance monitoring and such. But we also have the more interesting use cases. We mentioned scraping. So scraping, you're all familiar with the term? Yes? Okay, so let's explain it if we're all familiar. It's basically taking content from web pages. For example, if I have an e-commerce website, I would like to see what my competition is doing. I will take all their products plus prices, and I will check that that I'm the cheapest or whatever I want to do with that information. So taking content from a website is good because you can take dynamic content. You can take content that maybe the site is checking if it's JavaScript supported client, and only then it displays the data. Many different things are there to be done. There's also lots of e-commerce manipulations like sniping, meaning that you want to outbid everybody else on auctions. So you want to complete a process. Now this process may not be as simple as posting some information to a web page. You might need to go through certain stages. So sniping is also a good thing. We mentioned advertisements. there's lots of money in advertisement and click fraud, meaning that if I have a website and advertisers are paying me so that real users will click on the annoying banner ads, then my headless browser will do that for them. It will emulate browsing through the website, 5 pages, and then a click on the advertisement to make me some money. There's also DDoS attacks, sophisticated DDoS attacks that complete a process that is harder to, that takes more resources, is also, well, I wouldn't call it a fun thing to do, working against DDoS, but it would be a possibility for headless browsing. Of course, fuzzing of any other thing, checking what might go wrong is also a use case. And of course, we all have our imagination and the projects that we're involved in. So I think that we can all find more use cases. So I think that let's go to some demos.
So let's leave the theory in the side and dive inside the demos. Very simple demo, as I mentioned before. Capture screen. Okay, if you want to capture the screen to the image with Phantom.js, most of the examples here are based on Phantom.js because it's most popular. It's very easy. You just 5 lines of code. You go to the website, grab it, and place as an image. So let's see it happen. Okay, so what I'm going to do, Phantom.js, capture image, come, and let's open our folder and wait for the result, not this one. Okay, so can you see it? So we have the image of the web page, but cool. This is very simple. But more interesting, if you want to grab the image of the web page that doesn't fit inside the screen, so we need to scroll down to see all the image. Phantom.js do it for us. So let's go to github.com, for example. This one we can close. So if we go to GitHub, we can see that page. We need to scroll to see all the content. But when we grab it with Phantom.js, it's very easy, and you have all the page in one image. So if you want to mail it or send it, it's very, very easy. As well, it can generate it inside PDF. So I really like it, so you need to send any report, place in PDF, and send by email. Where is the presentation? Not this. Actually, this is the code of grabbing one execute before to grab the image. You can see it's very, very simple. Just a couple lines of code. Go to the URL, set the size of the screen we want to capture, and save it as an image. So let's come back to presentation. Okay, so image is good, but most of the time we have nothing to do with the image. We need more data. So we have different options in Phantom.js. We can grab titles or different objects inside the page, very easy. We can grab the content, like view source, we haven't seen before. And more interesting, we can get only text presented to the user without HTML tags. So we can just grab only the text, and we don't need to filter it. Or more than that, if you want to catch alerts, confirm or prompt messages, or handle different console events, we also can do it with just simple hook. We write on console message and what to do, like print in our, pass it from the page context to the browser context and print in the browser console. Okay, for example, let's grab the content from google.com. Capture text, Dub. So let's wait a second, he'll grab it. Stuck. Okay. It's fine there. Let's try again. Okay, now it worked. So what we can see, I just print the content of the page inside the console, so you can see Google screen reader, user, or Gmail image, sign in. This is exactly what user can read on the page. So with just one line of code, I can grab all the content without any HTML tag. Very nice and useful. Okay, let's come back to the presentation. All this is nice, but what we can do it exactly without the engine, okay, except the image. But if you want to simulate user behavior, actually what we need to do is to click on the buttons, fill forms, or do some actions on the page. So I'll continue with the Google example because I like it. Yes, it's very nice. Very simple UI, so it's very easy to work with it. Okay, so let's assume that Google doesn't have API. You can't write /q equals and your question, and you need to type the query inside the field and press Google search. So what we can do actually, we just need to know the button and the field, its name, the ID or the name, and find it inside the web page, inside the DOM objects, and just do the manipulation or press it or fill it or whatever. So let's see the names of it. We can use a dev tool and look inside the DOM. So we can see that the name of the button is, its ID is LST-AIB, and let's find the Google search button. Okay, it has name button K. Okay, so what we are going to do is place it inside our Phantom.js JavaScript code that we are going to execute. So very simple, we are going to pass the code to web page context. Okay, inside page evaluate, as I mentioned before. We find the object one by ID, LST-IB, and place the value Phantom.js. We are going to search for Phantom.js and press the button. Very simple. Okay, so we just write exactly the things that user will do when he browses this web page. So let's execute and see what happened. Okay, the result will be saved as an image, so we can shortly see it appear on the screen. Probably there was some internet connection problems. Another one try. There was no connection with the world. I hope you believe me. I can show you later, but for some reason, Phantom.js just don't want to work. Okay, the code is available, so you can check it by yourself. It's working. Actually, it's worked 5 minutes ago. Okay, so let's come to presentation. So, Ajax. Who know what is Ajax? A lot of people. Okay, so if you don't know, Ajax is asynchronous Java, requests and responses. Good example for it, when you go to your Facebook and you scroll down, your page doesn't refresh. You can see more and more content in your page without refresh, so there is some Ajax request and response behind it. So this is something that you can't do with just simple command line tool or any HTTP library. So you need to communicate all the time with the backend server, ping pong, just grab the data and show it. So I hope now this time it will work. Let's see. Okay, I prepare some example. Let's say I want to fly from Tel Aviv, where I came from, to Belgrade, and I want to search for some tickets and prices. So when I press for search, okay, you can see the page. It takes time to load the data and to sort it because all the time the web page communicates with backend server, and the data is not exist inside the HTML. Okay, it's come also only with AJAX request to backend server. So if we want to grab the information, we will not find it inside the source. But if we use Phantom or any headless browser, so we can grab this data. Let's look at the example. I just prepared the example to grab the price. As you can see, result price, airline, and the name of dealer to buy the ticket. So cross your fingers. I hope it works now. No signs of life. Okay. Actually, when you work with AJAX, it takes some time to grab the page because Phantom.js need to wait till all the data are come to the page. Prior, it start to grab. Failed to load the address. What can be better? It's okay. Let's check the address. Another one try. Okay. There are some connection issues with Phantom and the web. Okay. No. Some problems. Okay, I will not try to fix it now and to understand why it happened. All I can do is just switch to another internet connection to check it.
You want me to open it?
No, it's okay. The data before? No, there is no problem with data. It can access the web page. So there are some internet issues. Okay, this example is local, so there is no problem. Do anyone have an idea what I'm going to talk about at this example? Find the differences, exactly. Sometimes different websites, they don't place content as text, so you can grab the text and compare if it's changed, like price for some stuff. Okay, what you need to do is just compare images. So as I mentioned before, Phantom.js can be manipulated by Casper.js, and you can combine different scripts to compare images, and it can be done very, very easily. So let's see another example. So this example, if you want to buy a coffee, for example, and we have price. There's no image, there's some connection issues. Okay, so we have a price for $2, but this price, exactly, if you can see, it's image, it's not a text, so you can grab it. And we are going to change the price without changing the HTML, just by changing the image. Okay, so now the price is $1 without any changes in HTML. So if you grab HTML, you will find nothing, but you need to compare the images. So we can execute a Phantom CSS script to compare the images, and it will do it for us. So first execution, it just create the baseline we want to compare. So let's execute it first time. Okay, so now we have a baseline. We go and see the images, it's grabbed. Okay, there is a price, the image of the coffee. Okay, so let's change the price back to $2. Oh, sorry. Okay, so now our price changed to $2, and let's try to grab it with Phantom. Okay. So we have some failed test, means there are some differences. So as you can see, let's go not to the screenshot, to failures, and find the differences. We can see the image is changed, so we know there are some changes, visual changes inside the page. Also, more zoomed versions change exactly in the price. So you just can imagine what you can do with this technique, to take two websites and compare the differences. It's also useful by UI QA, for QA and for web QA, to check CSS, if you change some image, if it's changed, if some picture move 1 or 2 pixels left or right. So visually you can't understand it, you can't see it, but with algorithms to compare images, it's very, very easy to find this change. So I mentioned before Osomium, another tool that used to compile inside the application, not like Phantom, that you pass some script to the engine and it's generated, it's actually interpreted inside it. Osomium is a library you can load inside your application, and you can do more interesting things when you do it. So there is some example of code written in Osomium. The idea is same. You have two contexts, your web browser or your application context, and you have an engine context. Okay, in the case of Osomium is Chromium, it's Chromium based, it's Blink inside. So just try to imagine if you have in one side browser core, and in other hand you have tools like .NET with forms and all the UI and all the buttons you can create. You just can take your headless browsers and give him a head. Actually create real browser on top of headless browser. So I'm going to show the example of browser based on Osomium engine. As you can see, it's real browser. It's written completely on .NET using Osomium engine. And you can browse to .com, any website you want, and just search. So you can take headless browsers and make real browser, your real browser, if you want to use it inside the application. So you don't need to switch to Chrome or any other browser used by user. You can integrate it inside your application. So it's very, very useful and very nice. Actually, it's not mandatory to create UI. Also can use it as a completely headless browser with command line and executed on headless system. Last but not least, Android. There is no real example because it's very hard to project Android screen in the projector. But what's interesting inside Android, it has a web view inside the operating system, so you can use it exactly like as headless browser. So you can create web view, give them a screen size of 0, and then just manipulate the JavaScript inside the WebView engine to do whatever you want, actually, inside the mobile. What is good with WebView, it's integrated inside Android, so you don't need to worry about to install it in Android or how to deliver this this model inside the system. It's already exists. It's all the time updated by Google. So Ben?
Before I wrap this up, I must try running the script. Maybe we will, if we all think positive thoughts now, maybe it will work. I don't know. I'm a witness, and I saw that this worked in the hotel room. So let's keep our fingers crossed. So it's Tel Aviv, Belgrade, October 1st to October 8th.
Okay.
Okay. Oh! Thank you all for the positive thought. It was okay. So now we have. No, I must tell you that these prices are are not the prices that we paid. So I'm very happy about it. I think we paid like $290 per ticket, but it was shitty flights. Anyway, back to the topic. So okay, that now.
So now you really believe me that these scripts work.
They believed you from the start. Don't worry. So just to wrap things up, I will just share a few things where we see headless browsers. So, like I said, what Incapsula does, a part of what we do is to protect web applications of our clients. We have a CDN, and the traffic goes through the CDN, and there we look at the traffic and find out, fingerprint all types of things, who's a Google Chrome and who's a Google Chrome impersonator, who's a Google bot and who's a Google bot impersonator, etc. And so lately we've seen headless browsers being used in the wild for some use cases. Some of it is SEO. SEO is very popular for attacks these days. We've seen SQL injection attacks that injects links into pages. So instead of using SQL injection for the more traditional use cases like taking all the database or taking any part of the database, modifying it or deleting, we've seen a lot of attacks that actually insert links to improve the page rank of websites. We've seen similar attempts with stored XSS. So, and we've also seen SEO tricks being used with headless browsers to scrape content, not from e-commerce websites, the traditional scraping of content from e-commerce websites, or your shop is the cheapest, but taking dynamic content from pages, then showing them on a ring of other websites in order to improve their SEO and get some ad revenue. We've seen a lot of e-commerce abuse, mainly scraping, like I said. If I have a website and someone knows all my prices all the time and they can just get it a dinar less than my price, then I'm losing a lot of business. But we've also seen some more obscure things, like we have clients who have shops with limited edition products, and then there are sniper bots that buys all the limited edition products so that the normal customers has less value. We see that, of course, a lot with ticketing websites, clients that are buying the VIP tickets, then sell them for double the price. Let's say that it's very popular for any site that offers concert tickets, etc. And of course, DDoS attacks with headless browsers, it's nothing new. It's happening for a few years now. But first of all, we've seen an increase, and we've also seen a large mobile botnet lately that uses headless browsers to generate a lot of expensive traffic to some of our clients. So that's the main scenarios that we see in the wild. So, first of all, I will try this. Hvala vam, right? Yes. Thank you. And again, most of the thanks goes to Dima, who both did the heavy lifting here of doing the actual presentation. And he also, like I said, I dragged him sick here and had to really insist that he goes here even though he's sick, because I thought he would enjoy this place. So thank you, Dima. Thank you. And now, if you have any questions, we'll be happy. If you remember any other questions, we are here till Sunday, and you can also contact us digitally. But of course, we're happy for any questions right here as well. Especially Dima. Yes.
I thought it would be neat if I had
A microphone. You thought it would be neat to have a microphone.
Test it.
You want to?
Hi, thank you. I thought it would be neat if I had a very bad internet connection and I wanted to use a site that had lots of Ajax to have a headless browser running somewhere else, and then it would send me pictures so I could pretend it's not an Ajax site. And I'm wondering if there are like out-of-the-box systems for this. I've been wondering this for years and I never set one up.
So if I understand your question correctly, you want to take picture like for 1/2 second to grab how the process come from the start of the page till it receive all Ajax information?
Yes, and I want to receive it all in one package to my computer over a bad internet connection so that this other site with lots of Ajax gets it all in the data center and I just have this small link to the data center.
You can grab the information using Phantom.js prior.
Yeah, but I have to write it. Did someone already write it for me? Like I have to
for
make
you?
the pretty interface and all the...
You can write it.
Oh, okay.
Maybe in the break.
In the break, I can show you how to do it. It's very easy.
Okay. I might have already written that much. Okay, we'll talk. Thank you.
So hi, just a quick 2 questions. Thank you for Osmium. I didn't know about that thing. I've been using Phantom for years. So Phantom versus Osmium, it's like 80-20, or what's the use in real life? What do you think?
I can base my answer on top of data we have seen in the wild, okay?
Right.
As in Capsula, we have a CDN, so we know what actually happened with our clients. It's around 50-50 for usage, but Osmium used mostly for applications, okay? So if you have, we have customers that have a game and you want to create application that it has browser inside the game, so use Osmium.
So it's Phantom, Osmium, and there's no third thing that's mainly used.
Except Phantom, you have Slimmer and Triple, but it's forks from Phantom.
Aha.
And Osmium based on Chromium, so you have different projects like Chrome Embedded Framework or Webkin.net. So.
Okay, one last question. How do I leech WebSockets? Do you have any info on that? I mean, you're scraping and you're in that business, so I was wondering if you have any insight from recommendations for stuff useful for actually grabbing information from WebSockets, like Socket.io and.
Yeah, I know. I never checked this option to use WebSocket.
Right.
So.
Okay.
And I also need. Interesting.
Right.
Need to check it.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Have you actually made any testing with penetration testing with Phantom.js, like testing XSS payloads maybe?
I did. I did testing in Phantom.js. It was useful for many things, but it was. Let me give you a couple of things that it was off the top of my. I have the memory of a goldfish, so I probably remember little. But first case was a race condition in a complicated process. It wasn't the traditional race condition of sending lots of post requests of give me $700 and hoping that I'll get 1,400, although I only have 1,000 in my account. Hope I made it clear. So it's more of a process that you need to do, and then by doing the complicated process together from many different sources, you can get to do that. And also some logical bypasses that, well, let's say you might have done it otherwise, but it would take much more time. So I think that these are the two cases that I can remember of using headless browser for penetration testing that was fun. And I think that both of them brought results that I'm not sure that in the limited time, are you a penetration tester?
Yes, as a hobby.
All right, just
most
as,
of the time.
okay. So when you do it as a profession, you have limited time because the client always wants to pay less, so they don't want to pay a lot of money. So you need to complete a certain certain test of an application within a week or within a few days, depending on the client. So I'm not sure that these results would have been there by time otherwise. So it made things very convenient and fun. Also, okay, I remember I told you I have a memory of a goldfish. So the third thing about penetration testing was a project involving a raffle and the screen capture and comparing screenshots. Let's say that it did the trick, and again there were no parameters passed or something like that that could help otherwise. So I think that other than that, you can of course do it in other ways like auto-it and then writing something. But I think that it was a good choice to do that with headless browsers. Okay, hope that helped.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, I don't.
Hello. On the top of this question, I would like to ask if it's easier or more convenient or quicker than, for example, using burp suit or something like proxy and trying to do the attacks. I mean, in the penetration test.
So again, it depends. It all depends. Like the last guy said, it depends. I would, well, when I was a penetration tester, and even when I do what I do right now, you have a tool set, right? You have burp, you have Wireshark, you have many other tools that you can use. Echo Mirage, for example. Some of these tools can do the same thing. Like if I can write a Python script to fuzz directories, and I can use Deerbuster to fuzz directories. I can use burp, and I can use Fiddler, and I can use Zap, and I can use Phantom.js, and I can use Osomium, and I can. So you have a tool set. So first of all, a lot of it depends on what you're comfortable with. So that's part of it. Also, as a sideline, I would like to say that what you're comfortable with, sometimes I go the other way to find something that I'm not comfortable with, so we can explore additional technologies. So again, it depends on the tool set that you're comfortable with, that you want to do, especially when you're tight in time and you need to do something quick, and it's really case specific. If there's something that I can do with a normal curl, or I can just grab a page, grab an HTML page, run a regex or run a search between or whatever, and get the results, and I'm finished, then maybe I wouldn't bother using Phantom.js, although it would take about the same time, but it's simpler. So it's really case dependent, I'd say. Okay, cool. So we're really, so I see there's no further questions, but really feel free to contact us anytime during the conference. We'd love to help answer.